Hello friends, I'm Brian, and this is Gizmo Board Games. Today, I am coming to you with a little bit of a discussion that's brought up from time to time in our hobby, revolving around game length and specifically long games versus short games, whatever. And that's a discussion on its own. This discussion that I want to talk about specifically today revolves around the time on the box. Because sometimes they're not accurate. And I know why people don't want to play games forever, maybe, or maybe you do. You know, I think the argument is more for games are too long, but I know some people, and I've chatted in various groups with people who don't care about game length. The game is as long as it needs to be. Like when a piece of string, that little thing about how long does the string need to be? Well, long enough to get the job done. And I kind of fall into that category, although I will admit there are times where I might not pull out certain games if I know it's going to be 3 hours long because I know my game group doesn't want to stay here that long and learn that game that's going to be that long. And I end up playing more of those games solo. But even then, like, there's a lot of times where I'm like, you know what, I'll just pull out this game over that game because I know I could play it 2 times in the same amount of time. And so game length does matter to an extent, and that's kind of going to be my take on it. This discussion is where I want to get into what do you put on the box, because that is a selling point. You know, 30 to 60 minutes game, you can play this one twice in your game night, whatever, 15 minutes per player, 30 minutes per player. And we all know that those aren't always even accurate themselves. Or they might be at some points. You know, they're playtesters who've played the game 100 times. Sure, they can get it down to 15 minutes per player and knock a 4-player game out in an hour. But when you bring that game home to your game group, it's not 15 minutes per player. First, you've got to teach it. And that's 10 minutes per player, maybe, a half hour to teach 4 people how to play it, yourself included, if you've not played it either. You've only read the rules. You've got to figure it out. You've got to learn it. So there's your first half hour of the game night is learning it and setting it up. It's probably another 10 or 15 minutes. So now you're 45 minutes into your game night playing this 15 minutes per player game. So you're 15 minutes away from the game being over if you've got a 4-player group in math. But you all know that's not going to be the case, so you'll round up to a half hour per player. So you're expecting, we'll be at this table for 2 hours. So you're 45 minutes into your 2-hour game, in theory. But now you've still got to play that game. And maybe, it's supposed to be about 15 minutes per player, and it's a 4-round game, so you figure each round will be 15 minutes long. Except you don't know what you're doing, so everybody's got to sit there and figure out what they're doing and try to plan their actions out and their turns. And so you've got that slow down. And now your first round takes a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour to play the first round as you're still figuring out exactly what you're doing. In the second round, maybe it's a half hour. So now you're at 2 hours and 15 minutes in, and you're only halfway through that game. Sure, you've picked it up, but you still aren't 100% confident what you're doing, but you at least have an idea. So your third round's also a half hour. So now you're at 2 hours and 45 minutes into this 15-minute per player, 30-minute per player game. So you're well over time, and you still got 1 round to go. And you play that round pretty quick. Like, at this point, you're at least on a roll. It's 20 minutes, 20 minutes into that round. And you wrap it up. And then you've got final scoring. You've never played before. You don't know how you score. So now you got to figure out how to score everything in that game. And maybe final scorings take another 15 minutes. What are we at now? 3.5 hours? And I know I'm being a bit extreme, but maybe not that extreme. So your 15-minute, 30-minute per player game that you thought was going to take an hour and a half to 2 hours, you're now at 3.5 hours by the time you get final scoring done. Then you still got to pack it up, put it away. So that's where I get into what you put on the box for that game. Because yes, that game, as you saw towards the end of it, only took 15-20 minutes for each round. I really like the round timing more than per player timing, but whatever. So by the last round, you got down to 15-20 minutes per player after you've rolled into the game. But every game's going to start off slow as everybody figures out what they're doing. And maybe eventually after a few plays, when players know what they're doing, you'll get it down to that 15-30 minutes per player mark and can play that 4-player game in an hour and a half to 2 hours. but not right away. And so that was just one extreme example. Maybe some games, and I know for a fact, every time I played Ark Nova, whether it's solo, 1, 2, 3, whatever players, is an hour per player. Even if everybody knows what's playing. I played with my mom numerous times. We both have gotten to the point where we know what we're doing with the game. It's still 2 hours long, plus setup. And that game is an hour, 45 minutes or so, 45 minutes to an hour, that is, to teach to anybody who's new. Lots of iconography to go over, while there's only 5 actions, there's lots to cover with each action. And so that game takes a while to play, takes a while to teach. And I know that. I don't even know what it says on the box. I could look right now if I could figure out what I did with it. Let me pull it out. What's it say on the box for Ark Nova? With me knowing it's an hour per player plus teach. What does it even say? It's got to say somewhere. 90 to 150 minutes. That's what it says. So an hour and a half to 2.5 hours. That's correct for a 2-player game. I agree. 2-player game, hour and a half, 2.5 hours. Maybe a 3-player game if everybody knows what they're doing and it plays smoothly. You get a good engine from somebody. 4 players, there's no way we're playing this in an hour or 2.5 hours. No way. No way. I've done it before. I played with 4 players. I'll admit, we're teaching at least 1 player each time. But like I said, even when I played solo, it takes me an hour to play. And I played Ark Nova a good handful of times. And it still takes me an hour by myself to play, and I know what I'm doing. So that's where I want to get into with this conversation. It's sometimes people get turned off by seeing 90 to 150 minutes on the box, and you think you're doubling that at least for the first play. Now you're shying away because you're looking at 5 hours. Are you kidding me? A 5-hour game to play with my friends? Maybe I'm just not going to pick that one up off the shelf just because of those numbers on the box. Because if they wanted to be real, they would put an hour per player onto the box of Ark Nova. Another one I have behind me that I pulled out to be the example is Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. That game says 60 minutes on the box. I can play a solo game of that game in 60 minutes, sure. I'm by myself. I know what I'm doing. Too easy. But if I've got a 4-player game of Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition, that is not a 60-minute game. I know. I played a 3-player game of it, and it took 2 hours. So, where do we draw the line? What do we do with this information? And I think I've rambled on more than I expected to getting into my actual idea, my concept. Get the numbers off the box. Everybody knows those numbers, for the most part, aren't accurate. Unless you're talking about Escape, the hidden... what's it called? Escape the game. Where you play a 10-minute audio clip and the game ends in 10 minutes. Like that's a 10-minute game every time you play it, period. That's how the game is meant to be played. But most of these games aren't that. They aren't live, real-time games with a time limit. Most of them are just taking play, hundreds and hundreds of, plays from playtesters and feeling out about how long those games take, and then slapping some number on the box that is that. And that I don't feel is realistic either, but at least it ballparks it. But I say, get rid of the numbers. Get rid of the numbers. We've got rating systems for movies, G, everybody can come. PG, parents, use your own discretion with your own kids about whether or not you think that's right for them. PG-13, R, etc. Why don't we do something similar for game times on the box? We could use a rating scale, and I came up with QSMLXL. You've got Q, quick. It's a quick game. This game, 15, 30 minutes. It's a filler game. It's Flip 7. You're playing it quickly. You're throwing it out there. It's a filler game. It's a quick play. It's, what am I thinking of? Secret Hitler, whatever. You're playing it out. You're having a good time. It's quick. It's easy. It's dirty. Whether it's a filler or something you're playing in a party group and you're just going through the motions of playing the game and you're rolling it out a few times quickly and killing a night with a bunch of plays of it, or killing some time in between some plays. Quick Q rating. Again, this could be as short as a 5-minute game or up to maybe 30 minutes if you got a bunch of players, whatever. None of these are as strict, sure, as, the number written on the box. Quick, you just know, like, I'm not going to be in this game a long time. Short S for short game. Short game means it's a little more meaty. You're going to slow down and think about things, but not a whole lot. I said around 15 minutes per player is my kind of definition of a short game. A game where a 4-player game could take, a half hour to an hour, maybe an hour plus if you got some thinkers. But you're going to be pretty much in and out of it. You're not going to be sitting around dwelling on it a long time. Maybe this is a Sushi Go Party where you're playing a few rounds, and I guess that could be a quick game, but it could also be, a short game because there's more thinking involved. A little bit more time could go into it. Or maybe gizmos. I'm staring right here across the screen from me. So a quick game. A game that's going to have a little bit more to it time-wise, but not a lot. And then I'm going to go with an M rating, a medium, midweight, or mid-length game. And this is where I say 30 minutes to 40 minutes a player, roughly. This is where you're playing an hour to 2 hours. You're really got some time investment going on here. I'm thinking of maybe like, what am I thinking? Raiders of the North Sea. Geez, I couldn't come up with the title. But in my head, that's a game that's going to take you some time, not a lot of time, to play through. And this is also a game that doesn't have strict rounds. Your kind of play determines how long or short the game's going to be anyway. And I feel like a lot of games are going to kind of fall into this M category. A game it's going to be on the table for a good portion of your game night, if not your whole game night, depending on how long your game night run. Mine usually go 2 to 3 hours. So I would say I would play a short or a quick game to warm up the night, and then get this medium game, mid-game, M-rated time-wise game on the table. And that's going to be the bulk of our game night. And then depending on how much time we have on the back end, we might pull out another quick game or two. And that's where I feel like that rating comes in. And a lot of the games are going to fall into this M category, kind of like the PG-13 rating. Everybody's welcome to come for the most part, but clearly not everybody's going to be in there. If you're playing a lot of quicker games, if that's your group, or if you, like in the movie rating system, if you've got little kids, you're not bringing the M ratings out. You're not bringing the PG-13 ratings out when you're going to the movies with them. So that's my thought. If you're in that 2-ish hour play range for your play group, I think you're playing the M games the majority of your game night. And then the last two, L and XL, are long games and extra long games. And I feel like not many games are going to get the XL. This is where I'm thinking of Twilight Imperium. You're going to be at it for a while. You're looking at an hour or more per player for the XL game. And for the L game, I'm looking at an hour per player-ish game. This is where I would put Ark Nova. Like I said, it is an hour per player. I would give this an L rating for length or time constraint. Another one I played recently I would put in that ballpark is Civolution. I would imagine it's probably a good hour per player game. A lot of these Lacerdas up behind me would probably fall into that ballpark. An L for a lot of them, not all of them. Some I think are a little bit shorter in gameplay, but a lot of them are going to take some time. You're going to be at the table for a while, really crunching through the game, and that's where I think the L rating could come in for a long game. And, of course, the XLs, like I said, are going to be very rare, but those are a lot of war games. How many of you play war games? You're going to be at that table for a long time playing out that battle. It happens, but you know what you're getting into with that. And those type games would get that XL rating. Like I said, Twilight Imperium. I know those, I've never played it, but I know those take up a full game day. Like if you see an XL rating, you know you're going to be in it for the long haul. Maybe you're even pausing and coming back to it in the future. And that's kind of my thoughts. That's what I wanted to bring to the table. What if we get rid of, the times on this game is 10 minutes per player. This game is 45 to 60 minutes long. Yeah, some of those are right, but some of them aren't. Let's get rid of the numbers. Let's bring in some letters for the rating. I know I'm playing a Q game. This is a quick game. Let's pull it out. Let's get it done. Short game. Let's pull it out and think about it a little bit, but not much. Mid-game, M rating. Yeah, this is where the meat is. This is a lot of games you're playing. You're going to be at the table for a bit of time, but not a long time. That's reserved for the L rating. Hopefully I did that right. Let me look at that. Is that an L? That looks like an L. All right. The L rating, you're going to be in a long game, and XL, good on you guys. I don't think I've ever played an XL game in my life outside of when I joined a little bit of war gaming club in high school and went and did that for a day on a Saturday. And that's my thoughts. What do you think below? Am I onto something here maybe, or is this just me blowing smoke? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. Thumbs up if you like this video, and be sure to subscribe and come back and watch me ramble some more, or bring out some top 10 lists and whatever, something about board gaming for sure, and occasionally maybe not even about board gaming. But that's me. That's my channel. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope to see you next time. Bye.